but I'm amazed at what a human being can actually do.
It's just so intense, a lot of emotion, a lot of adrenaline going, and it's the best thing you can ever do.
Coming splotting down Bray Hill.
So, coffee with Conor. Here we are, gents. Thanks for coming along and sitting down around the table, having a yarn over a bit of Conrod coffee. But yeah, so we've got a few ideas over the table, and we've got Paul Phillips here from the Alawan TT. Mr. TT, visionary.
You must hate that title.
Yeah.
Let's keep calling him that. We've already got the name of the first podcast.
Yes. TT. But no, I thought Paul would be a real good person to kick this, hopefully what will be a series of chats and pods for the foreseeable, because obviously I've got my connections with TT, obviously competing it. Paul has been... You didn't?
No, used to me.
I'll have to brush off on that one. Yeah. But no, Paul, I think, has been the driving force behind TT since, well, for a long time. And yeah, he's got a lot to answer for, I think.
In a good way.
And
yes.
Also known Conor all his life.
All right.
Yes, yeah. So I think Paul was there whenever I made the transition over to tarmac racing. So whenever I was 13.
Right.
So Paul's obviously been a massive help during my race career as well. So yeah, what better person to kick this?
There's much age difference between you two guys.
Yeah, so his uncle Tyne and I were big mates at secondary school.
Right.
I used to spend a lot of time at his big family. The whole family is a big family. So yeah, I knew Conor when he was a kid.
Like mafia type family.
Yeah,
big numbers.
So I knew Conor as a kid, and then when me and my wife bought our first house, it was a few doors down from Conor's mum and dad's, and as a teenager, he kind of spent a lot of time on our sofa as a young kid, aspirational. Before I was working in this job, he was around when my daughter was born, and she had Conor remember she had a baby giraffe that was called Conor Con. We all called him Con for a while because of Molly. So yeah, no, I've known Conor all his life, all his racing career, and yeah, know all his family. And
I'm quite interested. Were you interested in bikes before you got this job?
Oh yeah, no, it's a family passion. Yeah. My dad always has been and remains to this day obsessed by motorcycles, motorcycle racing, race motorcycles himself. We lived on Sulby Straight, so my bedroom overlooked the TT circuit, I should say. All my family holidays as a kid were to go and see motorcycle racing. I raced motocross all through my teens. So yeah, no, it's motorcycle racing isn't ever present in my life. It's funny, like now, I have probably less sort of interaction with it as a sport from a fan perspective, because it's just because it's my job, and everybody who works in sports the same, you know. So it's just different. It's a professional interest now more than a personal interest, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose maybe
it has to be.
And maybe we're talking off air, Conor, that maybe at times talking about bikes when you're doing it 24/7. For you as a brand as well, it's synonymous with the brand. There's probably times when you're just like, I'm Conor here, not Conor the bike person.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a bit of a tricky one at times. You know, I want to be known as hopefully a successful businessman, but like I want to also be successful in my racing, which is right at the top of the list. But it's nice to be sort of recognised for both, I suppose. Being a bit selfish about it, really.
It's quite interesting, don't you think? We've talked about this, and we met on with other sports people, that when they kind of, especially if it's their full-time job sport, that is their identity, and when that identity ends, the career ends. That shift. Someone like Cav, where we're all Manx. He's coming to the end of his career. He's had purpose all his career, which was this goal. That then that transition into something else can be quite difficult if you've just got this one identity. Which I'm not saying Cav has, but as an athlete, so thinking about business, it's almost, planning for days when I'm not Conor the bike racer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, this whole thing kicked off whenever I had my big smash in 2010. And up until that point, I never really had any thoughts of, I need to have something else going on in the background for rainy days or for whenever I finish bike racing. And I was sort of living a bit of a dream at that stage. Everything was going half decent. I had a sniff at my first win, but it got taken away. And then went up the road. But that sort of gave me a huge education, and you do need something else in the background to basically support you, because you've got a short window of a career in this sport, and it can easily just go. And I suppose if you're even like performing bad, you can just be dropped, whether it be football or any team sport or any individual sport, and then you just spat out. So, and then what have you got? So that was more my sort of thinking behind starting my business, was just, I need something else to help me along.
How you find balancing that then?
I think it's right now it's okay. It's all manageable. The business sort of takes care of itself, really. And that's down to having a good team of people around you, which I've taken from my sport. I've always had a good circle of people around me and that support mechanism. Even when it does go tits up, they're always there, and so that allows me to focus on going down Braille at 170 odd mile an hour. So, which is sort of half handy, really. But yeah, it's sometimes it can be quite testing. But I think as long as you learn from the lessons, and it makes you strong as a person, really, and you just grow.
I don't think like it's the TT organiser's responsibility, but if you look at somebody who's telling me the story today at Saracens Rugby Club, when they're doing their sport, they as the owner of it, as they come out of or in their career, they help them with, and they make sure they study during that. I suppose like I guess certain elements of other sports, but they help them maybe get an MBA, help them start their business for their career after sport. And then obviously it's not because you're just an event organizer, you're not organize all bike racing.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that? And I appreciate there's kids come through, they and I say kids from my age, but it's all TT and the bike, absolutely bike focused, and you see these and you're like, there is more, guys. Kind of, do you feel you have any responsibility to
possibly
help maybe those newcomers go, there is more to life than just
I
this?
think as the TT evolves, it's becoming more of a sport genre in its own right. So it is motorcycle racing, but it's a very unique genre of motorcycle racing. And I think it's a unique genre of sport, full stop. And in motorcycle racing, for the people who do it, and I know Conor will agree with this, it is the only race that matters now. Economically, it's the only race that matters, like financially, and that will increasingly become the case, I think, particularly if the event achieves all of the things that we're trying to achieve at the moment. So almost for all those sort of top riders who earn a living from motorcycle road racing, actually they earn it from the TT. The other things they do is in support of them getting to the TT. So, and if that I foresee that reliance increasing rather than decreasing and balancing out. I see the TT getting more and more and more important to these riders, and the other things that they do less so. Just it's a bit the only thing I can think of, and it's probably unsurprising that you use cycling, but the nearest thing I can think to it is the Tour de France. It sits above, it sits apart from cycling. It's a cycling race, but it's much, much more than that. I was talking with Michael Dunlop last week, or the week before we had him here. We were talking about Mark Cavendish and saying he may race in millions of races, but I have no idea if he's ever won anything except for the Tour de France. And I think the flip side is you say exactly the same for Michael Dunlop.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But I mean, we work with the riders a lot on all sorts of things, enable them in certain ways, give opportunity outside of racing career, and got ever expanding broadcast network, and announced this week Dave Molyneux's coming into the race organisation, just retired, and we felt it was really important that somebody with his sort of level of achievement wasn't just lost to the event. There's a role for him to play there and stuff. So as the thing gets bigger, hopefully there's more opportunity, for everybody in it as well.
So there's examples of that falling out where see the broadcasting live for 2 years now, maybe three.
Yeah.
You're starting to see ex-racers in front of the TV. It's that collaboration with broadcasters and the TT itself, saying maybe connect with this guy's injured this year. He's going to bring good insight.
Well, the thing since the pandemic and that kind of reboot of TT, we own everything now. So all the content that's made is made by us ultimately with partners, but it's driven by our team. So we sell to broadcast, but we effectively we are the host.
No,
we are the promoter. We're the host broadcaster. All of the content, whether it's our podcast, whether it's content we make on social, whether it's our YouTube, it's we work with suppliers and creatives and companies in all those industries, but ultimately it's created by the TT.
And how big's your team currently there for taking all that?
You did ask me that when we were sat around before, and I was going to say, and then
Name them all.
went off.
Name them all.
I think there's 15 in the team, and then there's a whole network of suppliers and contractors, many of whom are full time working on the TT, but not for us, for the company they work for. So it's got a lot bigger.
It's not a lot, is it really? You think?
Well,
I appreciate the network's probably beyond that.
For what you just kind of said.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a perception for sure that I'm building an empire, and our team's got a lot bigger and all the rest of it, and I get that. But if I look at something like Le Mans, which is quite similar to TT, it's big one-off historic motorsport event, their team's 250 strong. So, but I do think that our team, I can go beyond that core 15 because there are lots of people, like I say, who are working for, Greenlight, ELS, Mo, these types of people, and they are full time on the TT. So we do have that resource, but it can only really, with the way that the event's growing, it can only really go. You've got to feed it with. It's a hungry beast at the moment. It's growing really, really quickly, and every resource we throw at it, whether it's human, financial, or physical, it just chomps through it and spits out the other side, and needs more.
It's definitely punching. The event is punching well above, for such a small team of people. It's punching.
Yeah,
it's on the world stage. It's from a rider's perspective, again, it's putting us on that high level. So we're in front of a lot of people's eyes that we probably 15 years ago would not have been. And we're seeing the benefits of it, and it's nice to feel like it's a privilege to actually take part in the event. It's a huge thing. I've seen it from when did you start?
May 06 I started full time.
Yeah. So that was my first TT 06.
It was, yeah.
So from there, and obviously you were heavily involved prior to that when you had a full-time job on the go.
Yeah.
Pardon me if I speak out of turn, but it was you're
full time.
Yeah. But delivering on, and steering the event and helping with the event, and it's I think what we've seen today is like the after effects of all the effort that's gone in, and I've even been able to see that from my angle from taking part in the event.
Do you see it during the week when you're in your zone as a rider, or is it more pass you by then because you're so focused on what you're doing?
It's difficult to see it during the event because you're so focused and, as I said before, trying to go down rail 170 odd mile an hour, and it's hard to take it with them. But you're aware of it. You're aware of just how big this event's become.
I've used you as an example a few times, even locally. Like when I started working on the TT, locally, nobody in the Isle really cared anymore. I don't think that there was a kind of this kind of anecdotal view that it would get to the centenary and stop. That was definitely a view. And for someone like Conor, so Conor's been the best local TT rider of the last 2 decades. And the 2 decades before, if he'd have walked down Parliament Street, nobody would have batted an eyelid. And he's been successful in a year where if he walks down Climb Street, you might get stopped for an autograph or a picture. And there's just it's just different. And I suppose the thing you talk about there, Con, the in recent growth and interest and whatnot is just, I was with you one day this year, we were talking during TT and about something, and just the sheer volume of autograph requests. It was just, we were having a conversation in the public space, and maybe every 10 seconds that conversation was getting interrupted for an autograph.
How do you find that? How
It's a. I've never quite. I'm going to say get used to it, but
I always say to these guys, you only worry when you don't get asked to do it.
yeah,
I mean it. It's trial.
as soon as TT stops, that's it. But no, it's a bizarre feeling. You know, you never really. You don't get used to it. I know it sounds such a plonker saying it, but you don't get used to it because it's such like for sports people who are like, I don't know, at the top of their game, it might be like a normal thing, but I can't normalize it. It's bizarre. It's not a normal feeling for me, but you have to appreciate without like people coming up to you asking for autographs and, you know, chatting away to you, and you know, we wouldn't have that sort of platform really. And so that's another thing that TT brought to, certainly to my world, you know, that social media, that social platform with all your social handles now, we're on a different sort of level to where riders were probably 15, 20 years ago. Just wasn't around. So and like I've watched every TT, I'm going to say since I was born, you know, and the evolution of TT has just been amazing for a local, not forgetting that I'm a rider, but actually as a local, as a fan, seeing the progress, I'm going to say the evolution of the event is absolutely, it's incredible. It's quite inspiring, actually.
Do you, you've obviously raced bikes as a younger lad, Paul. Would you have ever seen yourself doing what they do?
No. I've been asked this question loads of times in things like this, and my dad brainwashed me as a kid. In that it was like, I suppose, given that the only place he ever taught me was bike racing, the only thing we ever talked about was bike racing. All the people we knew were in bike racing, and we lived on the most famous bike racing track in the world. I guess he was worried that I would want to go bike racing, and he always used to tell me, you know, he always used to use this phrase that road racing's for mugs. He used to say,
no offense, Conor.
He said, you know, you get no money, it's dangerous, stay doing your motocross, don't get hurt riding motocross, And it was just in me all of the time like that.
Yeah, right.
And it always, as much as motocross was never my first love, it was just almost, and it just never became something that I felt like I was interested in doing for that reason, really. I think he did just sort of brainwash me away from it.
So how come then being brainwashed away from it, constantly motocross, but you still ended up gravitating towards being involved in the TT from whether it's passion or that was the love for it, the money on it, Paul. No. Actually, I'll help out a bit to actually know.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things really. So I'd like to think that if you're lucky enough in life and you spend so much time of your life working, that you're lucky enough you find something that you're good at. And some people argue I'm not good at this, but my natural pull is always to organisation. So I work in a team currently with a load of specialist people. I work with people who are expert in sales, expert in marketing, facilities, risk management, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not actually expert in any of those things, but I know a little bit about all of them. And I'm able to sort of coordinate people and sort of create plans and strategy that allow all those skills to come together to do something. And I was kind of always like that, even when I was young, whether it was like with my mates going to play football or I'd organize, you know, I've always been organized. My wife would say not, but I am. I think I am. I've always been organized, and I've always been quite sort of like the leader in a group of like, let's go and do this, right? So these are the things we need to do and get it done. So, and then in terms of the TT, my passion as a fan of road racing, from being taken to it as a kid and brainwashed to be interested in it as a kid by my dad, but being told also that it's only for mugs, that never really left. Maybe a little bit in sort of in the time when towards the end of secondary school, you know, kind of the TT was not as, it wasn't that cool anyway. You know, the reason I was losing interest is because, like everybody else my age, it wasn't capturing our imagination anymore. But so all through my school years, really passionate about it, and then sort of less so for a bit, and then it became more of a social thing. You know, going out partying, that kind of stuff. And then as I got a little bit older in my 20s, I felt more like I was sliding back into it a bit more. And but that intrinsic, I suppose, thing is being in me for life. And then I became really frustrated with how bad it was. And that's ultimately how I ended up working on it, because I kept, I was doing some stuff in my spare time in this world, working with people like Conor, helping them with sponsorship and things like that. Again, it's just like a natural call. I found that I could do that. And so, long story short, this person said to this person, this guy might be able to help a little bit. Ian Locker, actually, very famous TT rider. I've done a bit with Ian, and he said to somebody at the Airline government that in some forum that maybe I could contribute. That's kind of how it started. Yeah. So yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because you opened the door now, so thank you for opening it. We talked before we came on air, but since you just opened it up when you made a comment around not everyone thinks I'm necessarily doing a good job. Where's that in Paul's brain going through? I mean, we touched off out on, and I'll use the word, we talked imposter syndrome, but you obviously organise a massive event, there's a lot of eyeballs on you. So by default, of course, you're self-analysing what you do day in, day out, how things are delivered. Where does that, how do you manage that? How does that not eat you, but
yeah, so there's a lot of strands to that, I think, and I would like to think I'm decent at it, and I think if I wasn't decent at it, I wouldn't survive, because
it's important to have it.
Yeah, I think so. Loads of different things. So in terms of like being in the public, working on something that's relatively big and having being in the public eye in terms of our audience, but also locally, it's a big thing locally. So there's always a lot of views about TT, Steam Packet, these sort of things. And effectively being tasked with driving change and development and stuff, they're not always easy places to be in. And I think certainly when I was younger, and you think when I started working on it, it was pre-digital revolution, really, didn't have a social media account, just did. So lived doing this job through all that. And obviously it's become, for so many people, such a positive thing, and also a very toxic thing for lots of people in lots of reasons as well. And I learned pretty quickly that I think originally I felt like I was going to correct everybody like whack-a-mole. So you could spend your entire life doing that and not get anywhere, actually, because the type of views that you're trying to engage with, they don't want, no matter what evidence is put in front of them, they don't want to agree with you. That's the intrinsic starting position. So there's no point. And I think I sort of rationalized that really quickly. Earlier on we're talking about it's very much my profession and not my hobby anymore. And that's a decision you have to make. I really think that's important, because your hobby, it sits in the emotional part of your brain, and your profession sits in the logical part. And, so I need to be in the logical part to do my job. So it doesn't bother me at all as the answer. Now and again, when it gets pretty fruity, it's difficult. And and I know, when people talk about people who are very much in the public eye, Marcus Rashford this week and stuff, he will be impacted by what's said about him. Because ultimately he's a human being, and we're all kind of built this sort of similar way. So I think the human race is not ready for social media. I firmly believe that. Nobody's been equipped with it. It should be taught at school how to use it, and it's really, really dangerous, and it's a really misunderstood thing in terms of the whole imposter syndrome thing. I think that's been more recent, really, as it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. You're talking about like expenditure is huge, income is huge, people you're dealing with higher and higher levels. This big thing with Hollywood at the moment, which is like just mental. The level of scrutiny is really high. The risks are much higher. The people that you're leading are, there's many, many more of them, and it's just sort of now and again you kind of like, who thought it was a good idea to put me in charge of this? You just like,
Ian Lockers, apparently.
I'm 46 now, but in my head, I'm like a teenager or something, you know, and you're like, this is what adults do, this sort of stuff, you know, like I had it a couple of years ago. It was TT starts on Monday now, bank holiday Monday. I was driving to work. It was early, across the mountain into work. And I was like, marshals in position early, and there was like fans were all getting in a position, and I could see all the techie guys setting up the links for the live coverage, you know. I was like, what's going on here now? You know, it's like, ooh. So that's the other side of it. But yeah, so I think it's good to have imposter syndrome. Actually, I think it's good to be like nervous, like not too comfortable and confident. I think you do need to be on your toes, and not, you know, not complacent or. But in terms of like the critique, when the critique it impacts me, is when it comes from somebody I really respect. You know.
Yeah. Do you have imposter syndrome, whether it's your business or racing bike?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I've never quite fully understood it. I've always had an element of, if I do something and I know I've done the best I possibly can, I'm never quite happy with it.
Right.
I've always been like that. It's a bit of a string.
You like that at school as a kid, or is it just?
No, I think I just always want more from myself, no matter how good I do, or, you know, it's a funny thing. It's to try and compute it and try.
You must have had it in the first 2 years of your road racing though, when like, because you didn't go from the back and work up. You effectively went in close to the front. Well, the first road race you led into Northwest 200, Conor, you know.
Yeah.
Led the Superstock race into there's a picture of him leading into the York corner, and he was in amongst the best road races as a 18-year-old.
19. Yeah. It was such a bizarre scenario because, I mean, you touched on a name before, Ian Locker, who again watched all my life on the roads, and actually I'm competing against him. It was such a bizarre feeling, and that's probably where that a little bit of imposter syndrome kicked in. Bloody hell, I don't quite what I'm doing here. It was such a weird
Just feeling like that now in racing.
Not so much that, but it's more, you know, I always want more. I'm never quite happy with what I've done on the bike, and you know, even likes of like day-to-day running of the business. I'm never quite satisfied. I always want that extra little bit. Disappointed if I don't go home with that little extra bit.
But I wouldn't exactly say that's a negative thing to have, because you look at all the top sports people, it's how, no matter, you know, how fast, how good, how whatever they are, it's okay, I've got this. How this, when we talk about things like marginal gains, it's how, or anything consistent gains, how do you always get better, never satisfy with?
Yeah, you just want more from yourself.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, that like any form of trait, it's good in healthy doses. You know, it's in when you can potentially get to that stage of, that's what always takes over you. And you, as you said, you don't, it's good where you're saying that, to balance that with the, as long as I know I've done my best and gone as fast as I can, I'm happy. Balanced with the, I could probably have shaved a couple of seconds.
I should have gone deeper into that corner or something. It's a real funny one, but I don't think it'll ever go away for me. It's the
challenge there, I guess, is what day do you stop racing? Because you're always aspiring to.
Well, that's it.
When's that comfortable line to go? I either can't do more, or obviously you want to be on your terms, not on a hedge's terms, don't you? So it's like, is that something you think about, or still too young?
Still too young. Always too young. But no, I think it's definitely what's kept me going in my race, and always wanting to go that extra little bit, and relating it to TT talk. You know, that's why I'm going to TT all the time. I've got a box to tick there, and I want to try and do it. You know, that's what keeps me coming back. And then it's all down to like prep on the run up to TT. It's all ticking boxes, and I always want more from myself. Even daft stuff like, you know, I'm 6 weeks into a training block now. We're ticking boxes. I've gone up weights, you know, more reps. We're just going up and up and up. I'm feeling brilliant. It's so I do that for whenever I arrive at the first race meeting. I know I've done absolutely everything I possibly can to hopefully achieve my own personal goal.
So, and not to bring the whole mood down, but I will. just obviously part of the love of the TT, the rally is part of it, is the risk that comes with it. I think that's ultimately part of the attraction, whether it's for fans, and I wouldn't necessarily, it's an attraction for riders, but there's an element because it is the ultimate goal, I suppose, in both your positions, one, riding the bike, and two, with friends who ride it. And obviously you don't decide to give that drug out. They make their own decision to do that, but you're part of that cycle of that, and that's, absolutely fine. But some outside perspective is like, how do you cope with that from just processing that? I know you've lost friends. Well, I'm sure there's many, not only locally, international riders that you get to know and then you lose. And how do you process all that?
It's
I mean, compared to a nurse or whatever that deals with.
Yeah, well, it's without doubt the hardest part of working in this role. I think, and the jeopardy is ultimately what makes it brilliant. Ultimately, that it is the jeopardy at the start when everybody considers about watching it, riding in it, whatever. That it's the kind of like, it's like kind of beat the jeopardy, isn't it? That's the thing. So. That's not going away. I think, and also that's not going away whether I work on it or not. The thing for me, real priority in my professional life with my team is how do we mitigate as much risk as possible without interfering with the core sort of ethos of TT. And I think in very recent years, we've finally made much more progress. I think it's been turning a bit of a super tanker around, and the culture of road racing, certainly on public roads, is not always brilliant. And I say that as somebody who comes from that culture, but it's just, there's been too much acceptance and not enough disruption. And this is where, talking about the way that, you get this criticism and you in a role, you've got to make change. It's really hard when you're making changes before something's happened. When you try and you're doing something because you feel through analysis and research that there's a risk or a problem or something, and you can do something, you can take that away before it's happened. Because ultimately, a lot of the public, that kind of, it's not broke, don't. I get that all the time. It's not broke, don't fix. I hate that thing. Well, you say it's not broke. It hasn't broken yet. But we can demonstrate that it could break, and therefore we ought to do something about it. So, in the past few years, all of the kind of work that we've done on TT, the strategy for TT is taking it forward, and it really considers the management of risk in that, because the biggest threat to the TT is ultimately the court of public opinion. If the people, in its wider sense, feel like it can't palate the TT, can't tolerate it, then it ends. So it all needs to be defensible. You need to think, there is a lot of risk, but look at all the stuff we're doing with technology, with nutrition, with welfare, with investment, and since 2022, since the pandemic to now, the investment that we've made in so many things and the processes, and it's this never-ending cycle that we're in now, and I'm so much more comfortable with it than I was. I didn't have all that responsibility beforehand. Since the pandemic, I do. And I'm just really, I take a lot of satisfaction, that, we are doing as much as we can with the resources that we can generate here at the moment, and being much more proactive than reactive. The TT and road racing generally is in a kind of a very much cultural cycle of something's gone wrong, let's do something to either stop it happening again or make it not as bad next time. Whereas now we're doing, it's like, how do we stop these things happening in the first place? The thing I'm most excited about, but there's so much around, the digital red bags, which are really cool. Really good. I didn't appreciate just how good they were until recently. And all of that kind of technology, the GPS system, the investment in people, and the medical, just the best, the investment in marshalling, all that kind of stuff. But the thing for me is the biggest thing that we're going to do is this year, it was still in 24, we initiated a medical research program. It's year one's finished and it needs to continue. There needs to be a deeper dive through 25 and beyond. And that is all around trying to fully understand what is going on in the body and the mind of a motorcycle racer at the TT. First level of research shows quite clearly that the load is high much higher than probably people think. People think about something more obviously sort of aerobic, but actually the load now, the way that the performance of the motorcycle has changed, and the speed that they're traveling at, the physical load is really high, and the drop off in things like grip strength and the build up of lactate and all of these things. So there's a whole load of sports science that's just been absent from our world that is now really in our world. The
next is out for all that, by the way.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
yeah. I mean, and what is the number one cause of a crash at TT? It's a rider making a mistake. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's going to be like 99% of the time. So if we can help riders make less mistakes, then we can have less crashes. That's the kind of position we're in. So all of the investment around welfare, mental health, physical health, physiotherapy services, hydration, nutrition, that's kind of a big focus for us.
That's interesting.
And then outside of that, then when incidents do happen, what we've got in terms of like medical care, we were the first sporting event in the world of any kind this year to be carrying blood. So our medics were able to give to do like blood transfusions at the roadside. They didn't actually use it at the TT on the track. They did use it and saved a civilian. They saved the life of a civilian who had what would have been otherwise fatal accident. And they gave him blood on the roadside. They took the operating theatre.
Wow.
That was our medical guys.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible.
Again, evolution of everything from way back when to now is unbelievable. And I think, like, for me, outside looking in was, I think, a bit of a turning point for, again, outside looking in was the Rector bales, which was, I remember, you obviously will all remember the hay bales, and Suzuki branding and Honda branding. It's moved on a hell of a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, we just need to be so far away from that culture of the past. I have to say, if I'll speak strongly about this and don't really care who I upset, that whole culture of, the throttle works both ways. We just be so far away from that, and there is, technology can be our friend, science can be our friend, all requires investment. So what we do then in a completely separate part of the event in terms of commercially and economically, that's really important because that ultimately funds all that sort of stuff. And that's how the whole thing knits together in like a sustainable way.
Do you, it's amazing to hear some of them. Do you think the organisation, I wouldn't say talks about it enough, but talks about that enough for that? And not that we're here to push down the naysayers and like you say that if you covered the whole course in safety barriers that still have complaints.
We're not talking about it enough, and I think there's a few reasons for that. One, still some of it's still quite new. Two, struggling for the time and the right way of doing it. We need to have this. We'll become much more front, and we can learn from the evolution of Formula One. From the period from the kind of in the 70s where the fuel tank was underneath them and all the rest of it, and then up to that was a big sort of strategic intervention, and then up to the point where the Senna crash, and then again another big strategic intervention. That nothing should be off the table really, and Conor will know like the way that the rules have changed really recently around their own gear, what they'll wear, what they're allowed. The level is so much higher than where it was.
It was more historically. It was more like you there was no real spec to what you could turn up in, really, as long as it sort of looked half good. And
well, the spec
would that be bike, leather, and helmets in that regard?
The leathers, helmets, body armor, that sort of stuff. Yeah, there was the benchmark was low.
Yeah.
Now it's the highest. There is no higher than what they were at TT.
And you're setting that.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel like you're in a safe environment. The organisers have got your best interests at heart, and they want you to have a fast but and safe, enjoyable race as well. So it's quite a new thing, but it's definitely been welcomed. Everyone's took it all on board, and
the big one that's going to be interesting in 25 for this medical research program, which is going to be interesting to see. And it's not going to happen without a few bumps in the road. But every rider will go through a medical on event now. They will part of the registration process. So do you think currently when Conor comes to the TT, he has to get his bikes checked, he has to get his kit checked, he has to get all his personal information checked. He has to have his body checked. Yeah.
And did everyone sign up to, you just said you'd done your first year. Was every rider in that?
No,
Or
it
did
was
you
a
just-
sample. So I think they worked with about 15 across the, front, middle, back, sidecar, solo. Might have been more than that. I'm not sure. And they were testing them before they were on track, after they were on track, working with all sorts of different things. So yeah, it's a proper medical program.
You used to wait for those 4 results back.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand them all anyway.
No. Your team.
Yeah, but I can understand enough.
Yeah.
Like just seeing the heart rate trace was really high. Heart rate was really high.
Surprisingly.
Well, but people think maybe not because it doesn't,
they talk about that zone and that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
I guess.
Yeah, but also like
Because you couldn't probably operate
But
at
all-
180 for however long you
Yeah.
are.
No,
Sure,
no,
yeah.
but also like you sat, you're not pedaling or rowing, like so I
Yeah,
think
Connor.
no, I know.
Sat on your ass.
I just think it's
Yeah, I know what you
higher than
mean.
people
Yeah.
would have expected,
Yeah,
and I
right.
think that is in line with the physicality of the improvement of the performance of the motorcycle. I mean, they are brutal now. They are,
You've got to, if you're not turning up to the TT in the best possible condition you can be in, you shouldn't be
And
going on the TT
And
course.
that's the thing, that you could back in the day, Joey Dunlop, our most famous TT rider, smoking a fag, they were drinking, they could be successful without being athletes because what they were riding didn't have anywhere near the performance of what Conor's riding.
Bikes of 240 odd horsepower. It could quite easily become a bucking Bronco, and you've got to hold on to it. And the physical exertion that you put, your output is incredible.
And also the concentration level, like so they did some cognitive testing and stuff as well. And that is the big. I mean, I can remember one year when you were racing for Honda, and it was after the senior, and I was and you were just knackered, and you weren't physically knackered, but you were mentally just drained, from
2 hours.
concentrating.
I look like I just woken up. My eyes were just.
So you think about you think about yourself if you were said like, you need to concentrate hard here because if you don't concentrate hard enough, you might die. That is going to make you go
to
to
a
that
climb meeting.
sharpest place.
Go to a climb meeting for 2 hours where you got focused just on a conversation.
Yeah.
And you're tired after it. I don't know. Maybe that's an age symbol to do it at high speed, knowing everything's on the line.
We need everybody in the best shape. We need a lot of blood pumping around the body to the brain,
Yeah.
oxidizing the brain, and and I'm not a physiologist, but I understand and also understand like it's better to be in really good shape.
I can't sit here and say I want a TT because I haven't. But I think over the last, again, probably 10 years more recently, it's the gaps between, the top 10 riders have all come down. We've seen races with Dean and Peter, I think it was a couple of seconds, was it? It was a second half, something at the flag. It was really over 6 laps. It all came down to that last mile, So riders, in order to push to the limits, have to be in the best possible condition. And as I said before, if you cannot turn up to the TT, and really racing on the whole, is in my opinion, not in good condition, because you're either going to hurt yourself or you're not going to get the results that you expect, and it's not good for you.
I'd love to have I'm sure we will have a conversation with perhaps what we call an older TT rider, as someone that raced, let's say, back in the day compared to where we are today. One of the things that springs to mind is the morning practice where, the stories of they'd have some beers the night before and they'd roll up to morning practice, probably off cut, and the ability, they'd just race once a year, these riders, they'd just rock up here and then just, the bike would come out of the garage a year later. And that was okay, but like risk management, you're just like,
it's different times. I mean, morning practice is my favourite memory of TT. So, but it's mental. When you go back to that thing about being defensible, tell them, how handy are any of us at 5 a.m? Not very. The tyres are built to work in a temperature window that's probably not there at 5 a.m.
No.
You're right. I mean, it's a different time, isn't it? I mean, and it is actually, if you think about it now, we're talking about, 30 years ago?
Yeah, it was 03. I looked this up because I was interested to know if you'd ever done morning practices, and it was 03, it got stopped.
3 years prior. Don't get me wrong, I think I totally agree with you. but given the opportunity, if someone said, right,
Oh, he's up
tomorrow,
there.
I would be there. I might sort of look half asleep, like, but
Yeah.
I'd
You'd
still
have a
be
kind of
there.
coffee, you'd be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
But
not.
I'd still be, it just
Yeah,
be a box ticking exercise for me. Now, it's every time you get out on a session, it's got to be productive, otherwise you're on the back foot.
Yeah.
Some people might argue differently. I've never done it, so I can't really comment 100%, but it would just be a cool thing to say I've done it.
Yeah. Stick it on the to-do list.
If I won't mind just going down another two-wheel route.
Yep.
Obviously, your other two-wheel passion, is it right to say, is cycling?
Yeah.
We can all bore you now with this, Connor.
No, I'm interested. I'm a fair weather cyclist, I've got to be honest. I'm not the best. I get a bit of a fitness thing, but where did that sort of slot into Paul Phillips' life? Was it just a chance, or?
I think back in the day, you and I used to do a bit of, God knows what we must have been riding and wearing and stuff. But before your accident, really, and since your accident, back in the day, we used to do a bit, didn't we, and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was more just then for a bit of fitness and stuff. And I think probably where it became a bigger part of my life was in 2010. My wife gave birth to twin boys, and they were born really, really early, like 3 months early, and we were in Liverpool for a long time. They were very poorly. And it became, I got my mum to my mountain bike over, and it just became something for me to get out of the hospital. Living in a hospital was horrible. Same time as your accident, you were in Liverpool at the same time. And I used to start riding around a mountain bike, and then I just found it like a nice, and I still do very much to this day. I say I like being on my bike away from everybody and just in my own head, particularly now more than ever. Like, you said one time my phone's away from me, and that kind of stuff. I just got more and more into it. I like it in a really healthy way, I believe. It's not the be all and end all of my life. It's just, I like it for what it gives me. I like it, keeps me in decent health. I like doing it with my friends. I like doing it on my own. I ride to work and back quite a lot, and I really enjoy the riding to work and back. It's just that bit of peace, particularly the one in the morning more than the one. I often get to like 4. Why did I ride to work today? I can't be bothered riding out, but certainly the one in the morning, I really like that. It's just the reason other people like cycling, I guess the same. Like I say, I don't do it for anything other than what it gives me, rather than anything like that. And
Bit of a feel good factor, sort of.
Just it's pretty kind to the body as well. Also, except for flexibility, but it's pretty kind on the blood, touch wood anyway. And then in terms of it's like anything that whatever your latest fad is, you just get you either move to the next one or you get deeper and deeper. And I've just generally got deeper and deeper in that one. So,
and upstep Grand Fondo.
That
obviously a spin-off, if that's the right word, just to.
I think
came with it.
A couple of things, like I said before, it's one of my intrinsic things to organise, really. And I started riding my bike, started doing some organised events and all the rest of it. And I just thought I could do something, and it would be something I'd like to do. And that's what it has been. We've done 9 next year, the 10th, for the last of that one. And I just felt that I could do something good. Basically, I thought like organising an event, irrespective of the genre of entertainment or sport that it is, the basic principles are always the same. I thought I would like to have a little play with that as an idea, and that's what we did. And it turned into a much bigger project than I'd envisaged, if I'm honest. Yeah. I mean, it's a hobby that's ridiculous for a hobby. It's like it turned over quite a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. We lost a lot of money. We made something to pay what we lost. We've put something like, what did we work out? 8,000 entries nearly in 9 years. 8,000 people riding a bike with a little kid to.
Impressive, isn't it?
So it's been really good, and I've really, really enjoyed working. And the thing that's nicest about it is because it's that opportunity that you don't normally get in your professional life. My work colleagues will snigger at this, but you choose all the people you work with. You create a team from scratch. You help me with this. Could you come and help me with this? So you create this team of all the people, whether in with all the right mindsets, and you don't normally get to do that in your professional life. Not to say that I don't love working with people I work with, I do, but if you think of across the TT, like 1,000 odd people working on it in some shape or form. So, and I don't necessarily enjoy the stuff that nobody really enjoys about events, the stuff that I actually earn a living out of. That's not the stuff I enjoy doing. What I do enjoy is like event weekend, or even the weeks leading into it, when all the guys come together and go out and build, and produce an event. Because it's the production of events that I really find the most interesting. When I said before, I don't have any specialist skills. I don't, but I know how to produce events because I've done that for so long.
In fairness, that is a specialist. Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
So that's your little imposter.
Yeah, but I laugh.
Away.
Like when we do the Fondo, I laugh. Particularly like this year, we're doing some stuff, and like there was a few issues with this, like the days leading into. I know in TT, I go, issue, you're the expert, you do the issue, and I'm like trying to, I'm getting my hands dirty, basically. Is what I'm saying. And but I enjoy that. I really enjoy that. I'm very proud of it. It got, like I say, it's got a bit carried away. Really, it was never meant. I don't know what it was meant to do. I was just a bit of an itch to scratch, and here we are, nearly 10 years on. And
I was going to say, so when you talk about common theme of these things growing that you're involved in, how did the UCI get involved and becoming that? That for me was just it was a big island type thing in the Fondo, and then suddenly picked up the UCI, and that must have just been a big whirlwind that came with that.
So that was
that's the World Governance Cycling Bob.
Yeah, so I opened my eyes a bit there. So they came to us. I mean, ultimately, it's a commercial deal, but we've been doing, there's not loads of Fondos now there's none in the UK, only ours. Weirdly, British Cycling view them as too dangerous, yet they allow road racing on open roads and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, so they came to us, and that seemed like a good idea. What I hadn't accounted for, and I learned pretty quickly, was these people that are doing that UCI Grand Fondo World Series are a very particular type of people. It's like they're generally, but it's age, it's age category competition. They're all generally a bit older. They're all relatively affluent. Not all. I'm generalizing a lot here. And the nuance of that is really important to them. The different colour jersey numbers and all that kind of stuff. I was a bit like, what be important? The detail caught us out the first year, because they are like, it's a lifestyle choice, and it's not a part of cycling I'd experienced up until that. And once I learned that, and we accounted for it more in the second and third year and stuff, it was fine. But these like people who are really into something, like these people are really into the detail of that. I was just like, it's just like this, we'll all head off, and no, I'm like the 56 to 59 age category, can't beat him and all that stuff. Jesus. So that's we did that 4 years. We're not doing that next year simply for economic reasons. We don't need to, because we're not going beyond 2025 on the road.
It's a concept to pivot and do something different without rumbling through ideas.
Couple of things, really. Number one, without doubt, is the workload. It's a huge it's so complex, and we can't unknow what we know, so we deliver it to such a high standard, and it's much harder than like a single day of TT. It's not harder than TT, but if you take that one day versus 1 day of TT, it's just a lot going on. The moving parts are like crackers. 50 people working on it before you get to the marshals now. That's a lot of that's not hobby stuff, and it's costing tens and tens of thousands to put on. So you've got to make a lot of money to offset that. So it's like I'd say it's not hobby stuff, really, is it? At what stage did you get to that? So that's the number one issue. So I'd want to do something a little bit less onerous. Also, road cycling has had reached maturity in the UK really quick. It's like big 2012 boom, Cav, Wigo, sporty Rafa, this whole boom pandemic, and it's just like fell off a cliff. Participation, the industry itself, like last year was the worst year for cycling sales in 40 years. This year will be worse, so those are considerations. So like I would, with next year being the 10th, we spoke about this, the guys that I own the company with, like I like the idea of being able to make your own decision before you get into an economic situation or something that forces you to stop or do something different. So we're going to stop at the best version of it, I think, after 10 years. But I don't want to, and it'd be dead easy just to say, well, we did 10 years, we gave everybody what we said we would, and it was all nice. But that team that I mentioned that we brought together, it would be a real shame for them not to keep coming together and do something, because they're just too good. Like, none of them are really into cycling, but they're just good people at logistics, operations, command and control, all that kind of stuff. That's why it works, because none of them are distracted by the cycling. None of them are,
because they're not into it.
So not going to talk to anyone, because they don't know anyone.
Yeah.
Like they're just people who can organise events. And so, yeah, we're going to do something else because we need to keep that group together. And to be fair, I don't think I don't think I can bring myself to not do something. Had an idea which was a lot smaller. That's kind of gone out of window now. I think it just didn't feel special enough. So we're going to do something, pivot quite a lot, all of the same values and ethos, but also quite highly produced, I think.
You don't want a condo yet, Connor?
I volunteered myself to do it one year and then suddenly realised I'd booked a holiday, conveniently enough. But no, I mean, it doesn't mean to say I haven't followed it. Obviously, know Paul and a lot of people who are involved in it, and it looked special. One year I had my little coffee business along to the event. What is it? To Milltown.
Yeah, he must have done a few with us with the coffee, I think.
They did a couple, but you could just see just how big the event was. But I suppose the biggest thing that we took from it is just how much of a community aspect there was to it. It was really interesting, People be able to just drag the push bike out of the garage and just have a go. Forgive me for saying, but early days, that's what there's people, it was all like a local event, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it just seemed to just take off, and outside looking in, it looked incredible.
It is an amazing event to be on your doorstep, I think, until it's gone. People, not that I give any criticism really of it, but it's one of those things that I don't think people fully appreciate. Like good people in sport, until they're gone, you're like,
yeah. And I feel very conflicted about stopping it, because I do, it is good. Why would you stop doing something that's working really well? But I think the reasons are valid. Like I said before, it's the hardest thing to do is to change something before it's gone wrong.
It's really interesting just listening to the conversation earlier about change management as well, just from own experiences as well, of that constant. It's quite, I don't know whether it's a Manx thing, like people, there's this saying, isn't there, like, the Manx don't like change. And I don't know whether that is a Manx thing or whether we just use it locally.
I think small communities, bit of that, and certainly, and also the motorcycle world that I'm in the day job is definitely kind of doesn't easily manage change. But I always think,
why do you think that? I think because the demographics are a bit older, and
I don't know really. I don't know. I've never actually. I should have, given all the pain that it gives me, I should think about it a bit more. But I'm not. I think the thing about delivering change or delivering anything is you just take it. You've got to do it from a position of research. The facts always sit in the data. I always firmly believe that. So if you there is something to be said about gut instinct, but if you rely all solely on gut instinct, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I've done that. The early part of my career was a lot of gut instinct, and whereas I would say now everything we do is based on research and planning. And if you've done that research, that data cuts through all the noise and the anecdote and the kind of and the opinion and takes you to the facts. And you
takes the emotion away.
You can interpret that and deliver against that. I would recommend that to anybody in whatever their professional life. When that penny drops, it's like somebody turning the light on professionally.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. So Connor, it's a quick question, for both of you, but separately. one favourite TT memory, if you could go and relive it, what would it be? And well, the last two for you, one being involved and one externally watching, and the same for you, Paul.
Being involved, I would say it was my first TT podium in 2009. It was a damp super sport race, and I should have finished second. I finished third, but I hit the kill switch going over the start and finish line, going on to the last lap. That's a long story. That was probably that was a bit of a turning point for me in my TT career. But I was thinking about this the other day. One of my favourite memories was my auntie decided to get married at TT one year, and we all had to queue up and get on the coach in Ramsey. And I remember it was the opening lap of the Formula One race, as it was back then, which is now a TT Superbike. And the first bike on the road was David Jeffries, and it blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
Always have been a Joy Dunlop fan. But that memory of DJ coming to Parliament Square on the anchors was just incredible.
I always remember his bike, but I don't know anything about bikes anyway, but it was always just louder. Just, I don't know whether it was the gearing he used or it was just, you could just hear, and obviously he was quick, and most of the time quicker than everyone else, but it was just, oh yeah, you can just tell. It just, whether it's the way he rode it, he was fairly aggressive on riding the thing, wasn't he? From, as in, again, not knowing how bikes are ridden, but that's probably one of my biggest memories is just hearing him come.
DJ. Yeah, he was an awesome rider, no doubt about it. And yeah, he could definitely put the bike where he wanted it to go. So that was incredible. Yeah.
What about you, Paul?
Just to listen, when you asked the question, listen to Conor, I was thinking I'm going to struggle to answer this. I think more it's like it's more times rather than specific instant. Really, I think my favourite sort of thing when I think back to TT before I was involved was probably when I was young. And watching that visceral thing, the thing that's always stuck with me and is still our magic dust here to this day, when that first bike's coming, that building noise, that visceral kind of slow build of the noise getting louder and louder and louder and louder. And, you know, I haven't seen the TT for 20 years, but that's the thing that makes this hair stand up. It used to make the hair stand up on the back of my neck. It still does now. And I still, when people come and witness it for the first time, you are guaranteed whatever they've experienced in their life that is going to blow. You know, they're not going to go, all right. They're just not, irrespective of what. So yeah. In terms of working on it, blimey, it's funny, isn't it? Because if you told me if you asked me to say what the worst thing is, I could probably deliver 20 of them or go on type of thing. It's you think of work, or you just instantly think of pressures and stresses and stuff, don't you? I think it's more about the whole thing. I'm very satisfied with the last 3 years of my work on TT. I was pretty dissatisfied with the period before the pandemic for a number of reasons beyond my control often. I finally feel like we are now delivering it in the way that it ought to have been delivered, and it's living up to its potential. I'm proud to work on it, full stop. I'm proud to be delivering proper results now. I can say, this year, TT, highest ever attendance since the way we've recorded it, by far the highest amount of economic benefits since we've been delivering it the way we deliver it now, by far the highest amount of income. Our audience is growing, like billion, and it's taking us to this place where we're on the precipice potentially of something huge with our partnership with the consortium of Hollywood production companies around documentary and film and live TV. In your professional life, if you could get to a point where you feel like I actually managed to do what I set out to do, which maybe I didn't know what that was at the start, but to turn the TT into an actual global sports property, which I feel is within our grasp now, would be like that you could come away and think I did enough there. And I can feel like, with help from some very random people, including the likes of Brad Pitt, that we can achieve that. We potentially achieve that now if that project is successful. And it's the work through many, many years, it's taken us to that opportunity. We didn't just go, oh, let's go have the Isle of Man. And the Isle of Man became
build and build and
possible,
build, isn't it? I guess the building and building of that project.
So yeah, neither of those were specific. I'm sorry about that. So I need to give that more thought for the next time I ask those questions.
Yeah, no.
It's incredible to think, though, isn't it? Really, like who would have thought? Who would have thought Brad Pitt's having a look at the Isle of Man, TT, and
well, it's a constant cause of laughter in our office at the moment because he's in those exchanges with on that project. He's referenced so freely. Like he's gonna front sales pitches with Channing Tatum and all of the execs and stuff. And it's just Brad, Brad this, Brad that. Brad this, Brad that.
yeah.
You told me the story when way back at the start of this project, you were asked to go on a video call, weren't you? And
yeah.
Channing Tatum flipped up on the other side. You didn't know it was coming up.
It blew me away. I was we were living with my in-laws because we were in between moving houses, and Simon, who works at the TT, says, "Can you just jump on this call?" No problem. 10% battery life on my laptop. Sat in my husband-in-law's front room, and it was like this fancy picture in the background. I was like, "Oh, how you doing, Simon? I'm just in this meeting there, Connor, and there's these people I want to introduce you to," and literally just panned on to Channing Tatum, just happened to be on this laptop screen. I was like, "I'm sure I recognise that." And then, but yeah, who would have thought competing at the TT would have led me to be in a conversation with a Hollywood megastar? It's such a, I didn't think that would happen. It was such a it was a bit bizarre, but quite cool at the same time.
We talked about cycling before, and obviously I'm sure Paul knows the reference. I don't know about yourself, Connor. And it's the same in football when they go out in their full kit, and they call it full kit wanker. So you'll see someone in this full cycling, movie star kit, or you go out in a Liverpool kit. I'm interested, Connor, when you go out on your own motorbike, do you go like, obviously not, Burrows leathers now, would it be, in the helmet, or do you full kit wanker when you're out on your bike just commuting for coffee?
Well,
you are, aren't you?
What's this?
I've actually got a rather embarrassing bike that I go out on. It's a little 125
Right.
MSX. And
Tell me where you had your like in the middle of June.
if I was to fully clad myself up, I needn't bother going home.
All right.
It would be pure embarrassment. What?
So you're not full kit wanker when you just
Not a
commuting
full
around.
kit wanker, no. Maybe a wanker, but I'm not a full kit wanker.
So maybe just I've only just got one more thing I wanted to ask. It was actually because we started this conversation around coffee to end in coffee. So for us all to learn around coffee. So does anyone know the most expensive coffee bean in the world?
It's Blue Mountain.
I'm looking on the screen here, but no. So it's called Kopi Luwak.
Right, edit
But
my
the
answer.
worst,
I was going to say that.
yeah, the worst of it is apparently they make cats, a certain type of cat, eat the bean and then shit it out, and it's from that. It's then taken out the poop and then sold. I think it's $600 a pound, maybe.
Bloody hell.
So I don't know whether you've got any cats and want to, get your coffee through that. I
I've
don't
got
know.
a couple of ferals that just
I'll give them a posh name and make them eat some coffee beans, and you can up your price a little bit. And the other thing I learned when I was doing a bit of research on coffee, that it's it is the second biggest commodity traded in the world.
It is second
Is it?
to oil.
Yeah,
Is it
Yeah.
Which is nuts, isn't it?
It's an unbelievable industry. I mean, I'm one of just many, many, many companies that have a little business, selling the machines and whatnot. But it's an interesting one.
Do you mean to coffee conferences? I assume they exist.
No.
Have you not? I assume they
No.
exist where you can go and taste coffees and people are selling their
You can
wares.
go in courses and whatnot. You can
Right.
go roasting courses, cooking courses. There's all manner of thing you can do. But
It's like I was saying before about the cycling things. Like
Okay, yeah.
you can go deep down any rabbit hole, can't you? And like I like a good coffee. I'm a bit of a coffee snob. I wouldn't ever have instant coffee or anything, but I'm not like want to know what temperature it is or that. That's a big appeal, isn't it? The temperature.
yeah, there's definitely the odd connoisseur knocking about.
and all that business.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Judging you, Connor, and your coffee.
Yeah, I'm not sometimes I can be a bit of a coffee snob, but as long as I know a good one from a bad one, we just focus on the end product being good. You know, everyone's happy. You know, that's basically how we do it. My customers keep buying from us, so it's good. Obviously, if you do serve a bad one, you'll know about it.
Yeah, right.
But that's part of the job. But it's definitely an interesting business. And
what was the obviously you've changed this year, the brand's changed. What was the way you going with that?
It was more initially it was to prevent any sort of confusion, because we had way back when we Coffee Man, that was the first version of us, I suppose. And then latterly we had, well, along the way we opened a coffee shop called Conrod's in Ramsey, and they both had their own sort of followings. Anyway, the coffee shop went by the wayside, and I felt as though my Coffee Man branding was was losing its edge a little bit, and I didn't want it to fade away, and I didn't want to just be another coffee supplier, another vending supplier, all this sort of carry on. So I thought, instead of, okay, the coffee shop's gone, but we've learned so much, so I thought we'd better off just putting it all into one, you know, unified brand and going again. And fortunately, again, through my bike race, through doing TT, not mention any names, but I ended up meeting with some real clever people who helped me basically put the two brands together, and do it, understanding I went on this whole journey of understanding the science of, you know, branding and different letter shapes and color
psychology, and
just absolutely blew me away, you know. And lo and behold, we ended up with what you see now. So it's but I wanted to inject some more of like my background into it, really introduce some bike racing, but not go too over the top, because not everyone's into bike racing, not everyone's into motorcycles, motorsport. So I think where we've arrived at is something that looks quite eye-catching, and you know, I think it's more, if I was to try and push it and build the brand, it's more fitting in today's branding world, I think. So
I mean, we're looking at a pack here. Wherever you're buying this, obviously there's a relationship with the TT and the brand. Is that on everything you do now, or is it?
No, it's not on everything. So
just a good copy.
Just to go. So again, tapping into what I do as a profession, if you like, and trying to inject some bike racing into the brand. It made total sense for me to try and tie in with TT branding, and so went through the whole process of the application. Thankfully, we got it, and it just, I think it definitely it's big news for my little brand. Probably not so much for the other way around, but it means quite a lot, and it ties. It's another tie to coffee, motorcycle, motorsport. You know, so many things you can. It's more open to growth, I think. So yeah, it's quite
interesting.
cool.
Looking at the pack here, so the waves at the top here, is that contours from a map.
So it's because that's a licensed product that all those elements are TT
elements.
Those contours we use across all of our TT visual idea, the contours of the element.
Amazing. It's probably stuff you're talking there about seeing brand. We went through that experience in our business a couple of years ago. There's so many subtleties, isn't there? I mean, you'll see it from the TT side. So obviously, we all just see a lot of people just see a logo, isn't there? But there's so much more to the back of that brand.
Yeah, all these concepts that you didn't know exist, like visual language and color psychology and all the rest. It's an absolute science, and anybody who thinks I'm going to start a business or think I'm just going to knock a load at, you're going to fail. You need to speak to somebody. You need to get some. Well, the good thing is the internet can be your friend, because when you become interested in it and find on the internet,
again, rabbit hole,
you can be taught a lot. But it is an absolute science, and the digital age has completely redesigned and refined that science, because you're having to operate in a completely different space to where you were.
And that's where I just knock up a logo. That's literally where I started with Coffee Man. I thought, that'll do.
Yeah.
But there was still a bit of science behind that. I was just desperate to get my hands on a brand so I could just put on some a little van or whatever and go at it that way. But over time, I've really understood. And again, through seeing what TT have done and evolved, I've learned various little lessons. It's quite interesting. So
Loads involved in that.
yeah, it's not just as simple as, you know, just knocking up a logo, firing it on a van, and then just trying to sell some coffee. There's got to be a story behind it, and you know, I believe everything's. I think more locally, from my business, is sold through like more local social media, which is, I think, is Facebook on the Isle of Man. So I've tried to come up with some like content, so video content, just to punt out on socials. Again, tying it into what I do as a profession, which is motorbike racing, with a bit of coffee thrown in there every now and then.
Do you do a lap on the back of the bike?
It's just interesting.
No. You're scared. Scared's fine, Paul.
Not really, I don't think. Just, yeah, I have a funny relationship with the whole thing now. Really, like I say, it's just my the thing that floats my boat about it. I mean, I still love the visceral kind of spectacle, but the thing that, you know, I get excited about the commerciality, the growing the business, and the deals that we do, and the experience that we give the fans, and trying to improve in that. You know, I love that the business of sport is my passion really now. If you ask me what my main hobby was of all the things that I've been interested in my life, I'd probably say the business of sport now. You know, it's the thing that I find most interesting.
Question I've got is, who across all sports, it could be any sport, like impresses you? Just stand out.
She sat in her room. Be careful.
Blimey, that's quite a big volume of people, isn't it? People that I know or that I find the mindset of absolute champions really interesting. I think they often have to come from real trauma. I think, you know, real. I've seen that a lot. Real or hardship seems to, you know, push them a lot. People that. So, but I don't. You know, lots of sports people that I follow, but you know, I don't really know them. You know, I've not experienced them firsthand. Two that in the two sports that I've got knowledge of that I know a bit is Michael Dunlop. His mindset is really interesting. He has the thing that genuinely impresses me about Michael now, on reflection, and he'll never watch this, so I can say this, because I wouldn't like to say anything nice to him face to face. No, I'm going to joke him. Is that he had success, came relatively easy to him, and then he had more personal trauma. He was up against better people with better equipment. And the thing that's impressed me about Michael is he's gone away and made himself better. He's fitter, working with better people, riding better bikes. That's the sign of a proper champion, to go and do that. And the other one, which is obvious, is Mark Cavendish. Got to know him reasonably well over the last few years, done a bit of work with him. And all the stuff he's achieved is second to none. But the thing that I find fascinating is in the year, was it 21? Whenever he won when he went to the tour and he won 4 stages again, having almost his career ended and all the rest of it. And if you think everything he'd achieved in his career, he wasn't picked to go to that Tour de France, but trained like he was on the tiny % chance that something could go wrong, but the sprinter was picked, that he might get to go. So for you to have achieved everything in your career, but to go and punish yourself and live like a monk and do all that for a minuscule chance of going to something, that's also, I find that incredible mindset, you know, that to go into that place in your own head, to kind of be that committed, and because it's just hard in anything, isn't it? Anything you do in your life, it's hard to maintain all the time the same level of effort and consistency and stuff. And in all, you know, to go again in whatever it is, it's difficult. And I find that fascinating that people can just keep going like that. You know, it's they're the two easy examples for me to to use because I know them both a bit.
Do you know what that? Do you think you know what maybe some of that?
I think no. I think if you were a
Do you think it's
psychologist, you would find it really quickly. I imagine those sorts of people. I actually got them two together recently. Obviously, Mark won this tour stage. Michael won 27 TT. I was 29, and then there happened to be a time when they were on the Isle of Man together, and I thought, oh, we should get them together. I don't really know why. As it turned out, it was a picture.
monstrous of that as well?
Yeah, and I messaged Mark, and he sent a voice note, weirdly, straight back, good as gold. I'd love to. I messaged Michael, said, "Don't put me about." And I need to go because I thought either the weak link in this chain is going to be Michael. Anyway, it wasn't. He was great, and it was really interesting to watch because they were like two magnets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, man.
It's like boom, they were, and it was funny. The reason I thought it was really interesting is because this year, they were two people on the planet carrying the same thing around with them the whole time, and weirdly, the Isle of Man linked them both. Isn't it? It's kind of unusual. They were both sat, ready to make sporting sort of immortality, and they both had this link of the Isle of Man. But yeah, no, it was really interesting, and there was something definitely. Some smart brain doctor would say, "Yeah, I found these. They share these bits of thing because they're both, they can both be spiky as well. They got something going on that's the same." So
it was the quote recently was from Federer, wasn't it? When we talked, I know you didn't ask me the question, Conor, but when you look at, I'll answer it. When, Federer said he was giving a speech recently, and he was saying that the only the difference between him and there's obviously a couple of elite tennis players at the time, but he gave a stat of in his career he won 80% of his matches, but he only won 54% of his points, which mathematically in my brain doesn't quite work out. Yeah. But the stat's the stat, and he says the key with and he's kind of in essence saying the difference between me and the bulk of the rest is the moment something's failed. Finished, lost a point, you can obviously process why that happened, but then just move on and not carry. And I suppose I don't know, maybe Michael's a bit there where they have that trauma, and that trauma might be a failure of just the lost point, but that ability just to move on really quickly.
I genuinely believe with Mike that it's like fuel for him. It has been fuel. It's fueled the anger in him, to be honest. And I feel that I've seen this massive change in him since the TT, even since the day he won the 27th race. It was like a release valve being turned off on him. Yeah, he and I had a huge row before the TT over nothing. Not our first one, but it was a particularly vicious one. And the days leading into the TT when he first arrived on the island, and it was actually a row over nothing. And I made sure I went and saw him before the TT started, and we sat down and sort of had it out. And I felt sorry for him. He was under huge pressure, a lot of which was self-inflicted, but he was struggling to cope. Just struggling to cope. Yeah, he wasn't in a good psychological place, to be honest.
And then that example is that, and I don't know, but the TT obviously leveraged that milestone for publicity for the TT. Was there any, again, going back to that responsibility of, appreciate you're not a marketing person either for the TT, but this leveraging of the TT of, this guy's coming, we need to use this as everything has a story, and it was a massive story.
It was difficult because he closed himself off to just about everything, because he was struggling to deal with that. So I feel now, looking back, we didn't do a good enough job of recognizing it at the time, but it was difficult because
it shut down.
It's not available. And that was all fine. It was the right thing. I think there's things coming. There's been a lot of things happening since TT where they've really sort of marked his achievement, and there's some things that we're going to do coming forward. And yeah, I think that, but yeah, he's still going anyway, isn't he, as well? So, but yeah, I think at the time it just the beauty of the Tour de France with Cav was he won stage 5 and he had 2.5 weeks of ride celebration. So I'm sure they were making a lot. Some of the stuff they did, I'm sure they were making up on the go. I'm sure, thinking of an organiser's minds, I bet. They were, but they had 2.5 weeks to get their shit together. We didn't have that.
What do you think? I suppose, Conor, you're in that event we're talking about at TT, obviously, because you haven't ridden the Tour de France as far as I'm aware.
Have a go, like.
You're a big set lead, as you are, right? like riding with, on the track? I mean, do you admire? I mean, there's obviously massive respect between all. You can see that from the camaraderie of the riders because you're kind of all going into this experience. But someone like that, where you're, do you have you must have admiration for, and maybe envy? I don't know that what he's achieving and what he's doing.
No, there's no doubt about it. I admire everything he's achieved. That's obviously after.
Are you envious?
No. I appreciate the challenge that every rider is puts upon themselves, really, and I think I believe if you can come out with a win, I think you thoroughly deserve it. I don't hold anything against anyone who goes out and does that. I think that, but on the grids, my aim is to beat everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But when all's put to one side, you cannot deny just what someone's gone out and achieved, which is a win around the TT course. It's a monumental achievement to rack up 29 TT wins. Incredible. So you have to admire him, and I've got a lot of respect for Michael, and it's an incredible achievement.
Mental, isn't it? And I think back like 7-8 years ago when John was kind of moving into that space, and it was kind of obviously amazing rider as well, and kind of clawing towards that number at pace, and it was like I remember conversations. No one will ever get to that stage again, and Michael's just being like.
That's the point I made. The thing that I think that impresses me most about Michael is he had success. Kind of got to the point where you think, well, that's him burnt out, and he's managed to go away and reinvent himself, and that's impressive. That requires a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To do that, physically, and this makes me laugh that he still has a front of Irish road racer stuff. He's got his bath. He's not eating any food. It's not been prepared by people he know, and he's a proper athlete now.
Oh, right, okay, that's all.
But he wouldn't be winning TTs if he wasn't.
Yeah, right.
But going back to what we were discussing before, that is the level now, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you have to be doing.
Yeah, I mean the point is, isn't it really, Conor? I'm sure you wouldn't disagree with Peter Hickman came and moved the bar up. But
He did, yeah.
Right.
The level is so high, and it all comes back to that. It only comes around once a year.
I mean, it's all sports saying the David Jeffries era, Joe era, John McGuinness moved the bar. Then a whole load of new guys came. Conor, Ian Hutchinson, Cameron Donald, big influx of them. They all then moved the bar again. John found more in him and fought with them. Michael Caine, in 20 when he first rode the Honda, he moved the bar a bit, and then Peter's come and done it, and that's always the case. And it's up to Conor and the rest of them then to go away and find their next level.
I look at that, but like your fastest laps, 17 flat.
Yes.
Or fastest ever.
6th, I think now. 6th or 7th, anyway.
Maybe Wikipedia's lying to me. Or maybe your TT website's not up to date, Paul.
It's from last year. Jock
right.
right.
Okay.
It's
still right at, obviously, not that we don't doubt it, right at the pointy end.
It's not far away, but going back to one of the first things you spoke about, like I'm always wanting more to progress. I always think, well, that's all right. That's okay.
You effectively lost 2 TTs as well.
Yeah. Hasn't been the last couple of years hasn't been.
Oh, I see. In that sense,
poetry. But these things happen. I think it's how you come back from these things, really. And I've learned that through
probably the message you were saying before.
Absolutely, yeah.
So through Crash 2010. That was a major education, and in that, really, it's how you come back from it. I couldn't put my socks on.
Yeah.
Big target. A moving target all the time was being able to put my own socks on. So I've always been able to sort of rationalise everything in my head. And if it doesn't go your way, you've got to just dust yourself down and go again.
Yeah, and I'll speak up for Conor on this because he doesn't get enough respect. People don't understand how badly hurt. There is no TT rider racing at the front that's been through what Conor went through. That's the thing. Like, his level of injury was. I mean, everyone's seen the crash.
Well, it's funny that I'd maybe compare, and obviously, but Hutchie, but he gets that. he's come back from this, he's come back
Yeah,
from this, and
well,
arguably
Hutchie-
it's not about comparing.
He's had a
but-
really complex time as well. But in terms of the injury, his injury, I'm not saying
No, and I'm not either.
his injury was isolated in one area.
Yeah.
And Conor had basically complex. I mean, the good thing was luckily that it didn't have a head injury, but from basically the rest of your body was.
But you're right. People don't talk about him. Again, they should talk about it. But you're right. It's not really something talked about.
He was about to win as well. So, but that's like there's it's not easy, is it? The another sportsman that I really find interesting, increasingly so now in recent years, is Gary Neville. And so this quote he said recently, which really sticks in my head, is like, talking about anything, any project. Did you really think it was all going to go perfectly? Because if you did, we get it, people in my team come in and start spewing because something's gone wrong. Like, but it was all going to be perfect, was it? Like, it's a stupid thing. It's a human thing, isn't it? Like, we go bananas because something goes wrong, but whatever goes all right, nothing.
No. Cool. Been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. Obviously, being the first one and whatnot. So it's definitely
Gonna go up from here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, get Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Not that we don't like Paul. Brad Pitt.
Well, there's been some really interesting topics, and thanks for coming.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, good conversation. Cheers, chaps.
Thanks, boys.
Cheers.
Poor flimsy humans. Don't you wish you were flawless like me? A towering inferno of physical perfection?
I hate to pop your blimp-like ego, but you're not perfect.